Okay, good evening everybody. Thank you so much for coming tonight to our 2013 edition of the Parish Walk Talk, where we hope we will impart some pearls of wisdom to help you in your parish walk endeavours for what is our centenary year, a momentous landmark for the Manx Harriers as the organising club of parish walking, and a special thanks to Manx Telecom, who are our headline sponsors once again. I'm very grateful and pleased to have them here in attendance this evening. If you don't mind me introducing them a little bit. In no particular order, Steve Taylor, hand up Steve. Steve is our Chief Judge for the Parish Walk and has been for a number of years, and we're extremely fortunate to have Steve's involvement. For those of you who don't know, Steve was the Chief Judge at the London 2012 Olympics. Last year's joint winners, Richard Gerard and Vinnie Lynch, they went round in a speedy time, new record last year of 14 hours and 42 minutes. So a vast array of walking knowledge and experience there. My fellow Parish Walk Committee members, Elizabeth Corran, who has long been the race secretary and been involved with the walk as it's grown in both as an organising capacity but also as a long-term walker herself, as we'll see a little bit later, and who has also taken part and completed the parish walk. Alan Callow, dare I say it, our wise sage at the end there, more experienced than any of us will amass, I'm sure, and very highly regarded in the wider walking community. I'll start by asking some questions to Steve Taylor. As I said, Steve is the Chief Judge. Steve has seen it from both an official's angle, as both a judge, a highly qualified race and walking judge, but before that Steve was very involved as a competitor. He finished the parish walk in 1986, and when I was looking at these slides earlier I thought, in 3 years' time, Steve, that would be 30 years ago. Maybe it's time, I know you've been doing quite a bit of training, maybe it's time for a comeback. Steve, I was involved with some of his walking back in 1994, but I know he was extremely proud to represent the Isle of Man at the Commonwealth Games in 1994. What would you be looking for, Steve, from walkers in the parish walk?
Parish walk and the Olympics, the same thing goes, is that we're looking to ensure that the athletes are walking within the rules. You know, so at parish walk level, I'm looking for a good old-fashioned heel and toe. All right, maintaining contact with the ground. And if, as a lot of people, the man in the street would say, if you look at someone and say, yes, I can tell he's walking. He just looks like he's walking. That's a good thing. And that's what I'm looking for. So it doesn't matter whether it's at the front of the field, the middle, or even at the back, because we roam around the courses and looking at everybody. And if we find someone doesn't look like they're walking, we will give them a warning and concentrate our efforts, monitor their progress. And sadly, you do get the odd people who decide to have a quick run every now and again. For whatever reason, catching up with their mates because they've stopped it for a loo break, or they don't think anybody's watching. But we are out there, there's a number of judges out on the day, and we're just looking for people who are doing the heel and toe, a bit like those 2 feet there in your logo, you know. Numbers should be displayed, worn as issued. So that means if the number is this big with Manx Telecom on it and a year, you don't fold it down, you know, because you make such an effort to go out and get a sponsor, you should be displaying it as well. So, and not only that, we want to be able to see the number, because God forbid that we should be disqualifying number 30 when it should actually be number 130 and we get the wrong person. Yeah. I'm not sure. It's about 21 hours, 33 minutes, 49 seconds. The one thing I do recall, and is that in coming to the finish and touching the mine that was on the promenade at the time, overwhelmed with emotion, tears streaming down my face, even now thinking about it. And then the person who congratulated, the one congratulations I got of all the ones that really sticked with me was JC, and he's in the audience today. And I truly appreciated what these long distance guys could do, because JC prior to that, I think, won 3 times in a row.
2012 Olympics or 2013 Manx Telecom Parish Walk, which will rate highest?
The most important race is the next one you're going to be officiating at.
Very good. When I looked at that photograph, Richard looks like he's been out in some really miserable weather, and Vinny looks like he's just finished a round. So I'm not quite sure what was happening there when the photograph was taken, but it was quite a marked contrast. And for those of you who don't know, they finished in 14 hours, 42 minutes at an incredible time. For many, many years, the record was held by Derek Harrison, set back way, I think it was 1979, and then it was broken by Sean Hands in, Woody will correct me if I'm wrong, it was 2006, a record that we didn't think would ever be broken. And then all of a sudden, here we are in 2012, and the record is lowered again, 14 hours and 42 minutes. So that was really unbelievable. It was also the first time you've ever had a dead heat in the parish walk. So after an 85-mile event, we finished with a dead heat. Vinny, 4 times finisher, 17 hours and 5 minutes, which is a pretty good first time finishing time. And then down to the record as it is there now, 14:42. I was going to ask Vinny, what happened between the earlier years where you were walking, why did you stop at earlier churches, and then all of a sudden we see these incredible performances?
Well, the first year I did made a mine at work, asked me, he said, you can do the parish walk, and I said, what's the parish walk? And I had been on the island for maybe 10 or 12 years at that stage, and I still hadn't a clue what the parish walk was. So he was going to Peel, and of course I said, I go to Peel, of course, thinking going to Peel was the 10-mile trip across the island from Douglas. But that took me a bit by surprise, and I did a reasonable time to Peel. I think I did about just shy of 7 hours. So, and I remember looking at the results, and somebody had got to Peel in 6 hours and 5 minutes or something like that. And I said, next year I'm going to get to Peel in 6 hours. And of course, did a lot of training, got on the road, walked with all the big boys and girls at the top and the front, got as far as Maloo Church, still going okay, then all of a sudden hit the wall. Bang, crawled into the Russian and said, had to go home. After that, I never really had considered going the whole way around actually, because the thought of actually having to organise sort of support to go through the night and everything like it, I just couldn't be bothered. Got to 2008, the really wet year, and that was the first year that I really can sort of attempt to actually get around the course, and but it was just an awful day, and just coming into I stopped at Bride that year, and just coming into Bride, I just had enough, so I said, yeah, that's me done. So I thought basically I was never ever going to get around the parish walk. So the following year then, I actually started training with Jock Waddington and Dave Mackey and Chris Cale, who were sort of long-standing parish walkers, and just improved my technique. I started going to train with Alan down there as well, actually, to learn how to walk proper. And so I had a really good attempt actually like that, and all the lads encouraged me through the year, and so I was lucky enough to finish in just over 17 hours. And
You came from quite an athletic and sporting background, am I right in thinking that?
I've done a few different things down the years. Yeah. I used to be I started off being a runner actually, and I was also a semi-professional footballer, and I had to make the choice back when I was in my very late teens, early 20s, actually, football or athletics. I've run a marathon in 2 hours 26, which is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, more than pretty good, I would say. More than pretty good.
So I played semi-professional football for probably about 5 or 6 years, and until a serious injury curtailed that. And after I finished that, I took up kickboxing for quite a few years. It's Even if somebody has never ever done a sporting thing in their life, it's still no hindrance in getting around a parish walk. Because personally, to finish a parish walk, 70% inspiration, 30% perspiration.
That Vinny came from a very sporting background, 2:26 marathon, professional footballer. I hope you don't mind me saying, Richard, that your approach to it was a little bit different. And
My objective really was to lose a few pounds, because probably about 2006 I was quite a few stone heavier than I am now, and I just wanted a target to lose weight, and I thought, well, I could do with doing some kind of activity alongside that. And my father-in-law had done the parish walk the year before, and he challenged me over a few beers one evening. So I thought, next year I'll enter, and I'll make sure I get further than he did the previous year. He got as far as Kurt Michael, so I thought, whatever I do, I've got to get past there. I never had any thoughts about finishing. It was just to beat him, really. And I think having that target of the parish walk alongside trying to lose a few pounds, I actually realised that maybe I was okay at this walking lark, so it kind of went on from there. I think from the times there, I kind of progressively got quicker every year. The first year I finished with 2008, which was the really wet year, and my only objective then was just to get round. I didn't care about the time or anything. And then I think probably at the start of 2009, similar to Vinny, I started going out training with a few people who were a bit quicker than I was, and about walking on a Saturday, I get left behind every week, and it's a bit demoralising, because as soon as I catch up with them again, they'd be racing off ahead. So I spent 3 hours or 4 hours chasing people around the Isle of Man. But then after a while, I got quicker and quicker, and similar to what Vinny was saying before, I went down to Alan's training sessions on a Tuesday, and now I don't think I'd be lost without the parish walk. And
many of you will know Liz has been the secretary of the parish walk for over 20 years, dare I say that. Liz is also a qualified race walking coach. I know Liz was proud to have finished. I remember seeing her at the finish in 2006, having been involved in the walk for many years, felt it was time to put her shoes on and get out and give it a go, and was pleased to finish in 20:48. I also remember back in 1996, Liz setting an age group world record for the 20-kilometre walk in Bruges, so a time of 1 hour 48. So again, very experienced walker. Perhaps some of your training thoughts, and I know you did lots of the shorter walks. For the one-off event in 2006, not that long ago, what did you do differently that year to take on the parish walk?
I didn't do a lot different, really. I did it more on the training I'd done consistently over the previous years, and I can honestly say I did it with my friend Bridget and training partner at the time, and we didn't change anything. We did our normal walks in the week, which was various distances, more at speed in the week of the shorter distances, and I can honestly say that I did 5 3-hour to 3.5-hour walks. The rest were all sort of 2.5 hours. So
if we had someone in the audience, Liz, who was starting from, maybe they haven't done more than walk the dog down to get the newspaper on a Saturday morning, I think you put together some
yes,
training,
I put together.
if we were starting now. Would you want to just go through some of those points that are quite specific, really?
Yeah. Starting from this, I started it. It's more for the last, basically on the last end of the walking. But so by now, really, most people that are considering to do the parish walk should have gone out and done some walking by now. I would say, had built it up to a good sort of level, with sort of some distance and that in. But I don't think anyone needs to go out at novice level anyway, if it's just a case of getting round to do more than what I've said here. 12 to 20 miles at a weekend for the long one, and like I did, carry on, do some varied distances. Don't just plod around doing 15 miles at the same pace. You know, vary it. It also makes it a bit more interesting as well than just going out and doing the same thing all the time. So if you do your shorter distances a little bit faster, and then your longer distances a little bit slower, and sort of vary the routes that you go on, just, you know, to keep that interesting. If you can, go out with a friend. That last couple of weeks you should be starting to sort of just taper it right down to 2 or 3 times maybe in that second last week. In the last week, if you've read this, if you've got a dog, just go out for a stroll with the dog. Grandchildren, anything, just go for a nice stroll, maybe a swim, and then just rest.
Alan again is a qualified race walking coach, and all the panel, and me included, have benefited greatly from his wisdom over many, many years. And again, Commonwealth Games level walker, and competed in the 1974 Commonwealth Games, and finished even before Tigger. 1982, Alan went round in 19 hours 40 minutes. And what are the general things that when Vinnie or Richard or Liz come along to you as a race walking coach, what's the typical kind of questions that you get asked?
Despite all the questions I get, I'm always concentrating on getting them to be a race walker first. You know. Even though it's the parish walk, to me, good race walking is the international type of race walking where you have the heel and toes shown there, but also you try and straighten the leg because technically that is more efficient. So being long distance events, the more efficient you are, the less energy you're going to expend.
So if we looked at the parish walk results and with Murray's assistance looked at some of the video analysis and maybe the front of the field versus the back end of the field, would we see more race walking technique at the front compared to the more day-to-day walking techniques?
At the front of the field I'd expect to see more efficient technique, yes.
Okay. First, we can focus on the front 20 walkers who would be really focused on that technique. The parish is really about everybody taking part in a mass participation event, and people who are walking for the first time, never done a race walking event in the past. How can they, what kind of things should they be thinking about to help themselves get as far as possible and meet their targets?
I think I think we all probably dream of finishing the parish walk, like every young athlete dreams of going to the Olympics. We've got to say, compartment that and then be realistic. The dream will motivate you, but the realism will get the best out of yourself. So if you haven't done it before, you know, we've heard from our winners saying that they had a few goes before they actually finished it. It's always good to talk to someone who's done it before because they've made the mistakes. They might help you not make so many.
Footwear that we should walk. You know, people think about walking long distance. They go out and buy a pair of hiking boots because that's what the shop sells for walking over the fells.
I think we said it there. It's no time to be experimenting now, to be honest. You should have found a pair that you can feel right in, that can be your friends on your feet, basically. A lot of trainers about it, personally I feel, don't suit walking. They lack flexibility. They tend to be sort of probably made of inflexible materials as well. Shoes they like, and they do generally tend to be more of a lighter shoe than the general trainer, more flexible, more comfortable, because they're on your feet for a long time. During that parish walk, they've got to be your friends.
Food and drink, I think, is something which is often overlooked in the parish walk. You know, if you're on your feet for a long time, you wouldn't go for 5, 6, 7 hours during the day without any kind of nourishment and refreshment. So maybe worth us asking the audience what kind of food and refreshments they took on board during the walk. Starting from the sharp end of the field and from recent history, Vinnie, can we? What did you take on during the race?
I suppose like everybody else, I've been experimenting for the last couple of years, and what gets me around the parish walk is soup. No chewing, full of energy, and
Any particular flavour?
it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. I do mix some mashed potato into it as well. Actually, it just gives it a little bit extra. Important thing of the whole lot is keep yourself hydrated. When you're eating, you need to be drinking as well. And people tend to leave the drinking bit till it's far too late, until they've already got dehydrated, and then it's gone, because you don't ever get it back. So
Sounds like a party, doesn't it? Come to the parish walk and keep drinking your day.
but if you actually think about it, for the average male, 13, 14 stone, average sort of thing, you're going to burn in the region of 18,000 calories if you get around a parish walk. That is a lot of. So.
What about you? Don't say you shared Vinnie's soup.
No.
Attention.
Probably similar. I do drink a lot of soup, and I think, as Vinny said, it's probably small amounts and very regularly. I'm probably taking something on to eat, certainly every couple of miles, possibly even every mile as I'm going around. And usually carry a drink just in a kind of bottle bag all around, so I've just got something there to constantly keep myself hydrated. I tend to eat things with like flapjacks as well, maybe early on, but as the walk progresses, it's probably bland things that you can just easily digest, so soup's ideal for that.
I think it was probably the most miserable experience of my entire life. I thought I was going to die. And it was just awful.
We move in the same way for a long time, and so areas, particularly here, and particularly between the tops of the legs, are areas where rubbing can occur. And the best things to do is to try and, when you start, be aware that that might happen. So a good tub of Vaseline with probably more than you'd want to put on, I think, for appearance sakes, as well sometimes. Now, they're an area that people get problems of abrasion.
Yeah.
The best way is obviously the more walking you do, the more your feet get comfortable with that sort of action.
And I guess that takes us on to the question of blisters, which is the number one
It's a
question.
massive area, isn't it?
Yeah. So how do I stop getting blisters?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any magic formula from my personal perspective about having the right shoes, the right socks, trying out beforehand.
Blisters, they're an annoyance, and I think when you get to the stage where you accept that they are an annoyance, the blister won't stop you from finishing the parish walk.
Okay. So
That's what stops you from finishing the parish walk.
Richard, so you went from being a recreational walker to being at the sharp end. Did you notice a difference? Did you get more blisters at the beginning than you do these days? Is it?
Yeah, well, in 2008, when it was the really wet year, my feet were absolutely shredded. I actually had to go up to A&E on the Sunday to get my feet treated properly, strapped up and everything. So I made a right mess of them. So from Vinny saying before, praying for rain, it's wet. In the early days,
And God forbid anybody should get Dudley's foot.
3 things you're glad you did in the parish walk, or in walking in general, and 3 things you've done wrong, so 3 mistakes that you've made. So let's start from the opposite end this time, Alan.
The earliest mistakes were being overly ambitious, believing you could do more than you could, which in walking these led to disqualifications. And the second was not being able to have a coach. My early coach moved out, thought I could do it myself. Years sort of male ego and being over ambitious, to be honest.
Okay.
I think in so many races going off too fast, dying an absolute death, and never in that particular race achieving what I could have done. Backing in as a competitor too soon, I think I could have done a few more years. my good friend Ralph Martin, when he eventually finished the parish, he came down the home straight, so to speak. He was looking for myself and Steve Brennan because he finished it and he beat our time, you know, so maybe there's something to come back for.
Oh, there we are. Yeah.
Steve probably going off too fast at the start of a race and then dying of death halfway through it. Probably a good advice to a lot of women that are going to do the parish walk. One of the first ones I did to Peel, it was really hot weather and I was going to wear my shorts and vest, so I thought I'd shave under my arms on the Friday night. Big mistake, I walked into Peel like this. So again, it goes back to a bit like the friction side, so make sure you shave under your arms a couple of nights before missing out and going to the Commonwealth Games by a few seconds.
I think my probably initial regret the first year I did it was stopping too early. I think if I had just taken it easy or sat down for 10 or 15 minutes, I could have carried on, because I remember driving off in the car on the way home thinking, I feel okay now, and I could have carried on a bit further. Than that, probably not eating enough. I did have one sticky patch last year where my support driver drove off down the road, and I remember kind of catching him 5 minutes later, kind of having a bit of a rant saying how hungry I was and how I was going to hit the wall and collapse if I didn't get something. Other than that, probably starting off too quickly, getting carried away with some of the quicker walkers at the front.
The same as that mistakes is just trying to be stupid when it comes to speed or shit like that, not being sensible. The one real regret I probably had is that been so late getting involved in the race walking, because I was what, 46 when I started walking.